let me fix up my audio before I actually do anything because it is saying that you're not recording, but you are. I'm confused. Hey, how's it going? It's been a while, I know. If you've seen the I haven't been around video, no you haven't. That stays between you and me, yeah? Cool. I wasn't gonna make this video because something like this happens every year and it isn't really that special to me, but it seems like it is really, really important for me to get out there. So a lot of people say it was just a fluke. It was just luck. He got lucky with an exam or two. He got lucky because he made so many papers and things like that. But I'm making this video for one reason and one reason only, to show you exactly what it took to predict the JMSS practical for 2025. And more importantly, why this prediction isn't the only reason why my students did well in the JMSS exam. Because the goal here isn't luck or knowing the answers in advance. It's something much deeper and much more difficult to pinpoint. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it means two things. One, you don't follow me on Instagram. And two, you're very, very lost as to what I'm talking about. On the day of the JMSS exam, which is yesterday when I'm recording this video, or early in the morning when I'm recording this video, my students opened their practical task booklet, and it was the exact same experiment that I gave them a few weeks ago. Same table, same setup, same method, same variable, same context. Everything was identical. They didn't just recognize the task. They'd already solved it with me. They'd already written the exam before they even walked into the hall. It wasn't similar, it wasn't close, it was the exact practical they did for homework. And if you're watching this, wondering how the hell that happened, I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it, step by step. But you also need to understand something much more important, that this moment wasn't luck on my end as someone who created that resource. And it's not the reason that they walked out confident. Because this video isn't about guessing it right. It's about the amount of effort needed to predict that and the amount of effort that students need to put in to actually ace the exam. So let me get one thing clear. My students didn't succeed because they did the prac beforehand. They succeeded because they were built to handle everything. They could have swapped the topic out, changed the format, flipped the entire structure, and the result wouldn't have changed. I'm confident in that. Because I don't train students to identify the answer. I train them to break beyond the question. My students command structure, they think clearly under pressure, and they write with conviction, not hope. The prac just happened to be the one that I gave them beforehand. They didn't rely on luck. They relied on training and a tutor who knew what they were doing. So, how exactly did this happen? Let me break it down step by step. When I make resources, I base it off of a giant archive of JMSS context that I built over the last 5 years of teaching, as well as the last 8 years in total of being a JMSS student / graduate. Not just topics, but exact patterns. Which skills are overused? What hadn't shown up in a while? What types of tasks scale well across over hundreds to 1,000 students? What can be done on paper without much prior experience? I filtered out key criteria using conceptual depth, interpretable and rich data, realistic data, room for strong and weak analysis, which makes it clear who knows what they're talking about and who doesn't, as well as a simple enough practical setup to get the message across through pen and paper without actually doing the practical itself. I pick a couple of topics every single year and I make the resources from scratch. I don't reuse papers that I made 2-3 years ago. I build them from scratch over and over and over again. I don't just change values, I build everything. So I picked some topics that were underrated, undervalued, and untouched in years, and that were easy to deliver but hard to do well. I built many pracs step by step from hand, from scratch, designed the data, designed the context, designed the method, embedded flaws in the method itself, and created full-on worksheets and mock exams to help my students succeed. Then I tested it with a small sample size of one-on-one students. I asked myself, does it reward precision? Does it expose shallow thinking? And does it punish rote memorization? And all the pracs I make tend to do that. And so I gave it to my students in my group classes and one-on-one sessions And weeks later, one of them happened to be the ones that came up in the exam. Now, here's what most people miss with a prediction like this. It isn't a one-off. It never is, usually. This is a normal for me. Why? Because I don't recycle content. I don't reuse past exams. I don't pull from various resources and websites and steal their papers. I build everything fresh from scratch. Every single year. Every practical, every essay prompt, every theory of notes, every question set, every mock exam, I make every single year from scratch. Rewrite them, redefine them, and refine them. Not to show off or flex, but because that's what real preparation genuinely requires. There's no shortcuts. There's no guessing games. It's just sharp systems rewritten for clarity. Now, my question to you is, what would happen if a big tutoring company had landed a prediction like this? What would they have done? They would have plastered this all over their website. Posters, flyers, marketed ads, sponsored posts, billboards, reels. Every single person will be screaming about how we created the most realistic exam, so realistic that it came up on the actual entrance exam. And they'd post that everywhere and get a bunch of clients, a bunch of students, everything. You know, if a major tutoring company had even gotten close to predicting this prac, just close, even if they got the topic right, you'd see it everywhere, right? But this wasn't close. It was exact. All the way down to the soil types that were there. And you probably didn't even know this was a thing that I did. Because I don't post about it, I don't market it. The only reason I'm making this video is to show you that it is possible. I don't use this just for clicks. I don't use it to announce this, to market my giant website and things like that. Because I know what happens when people fixate on just the moment. They think success comes from getting lucky. It doesn't. It comes from building a system where the exam doesn't matter. Because the student is prepared regardless of what they toss you. A lot of other tutoring companies rely on recycled content. They repackage theory and post it as new. But I don't do that. I live in these systems. I build them from scratch and I build them anew every single year. I don't guess what's going to be on the exam. I reverse engineer it because that's what you need to do in order to make good resources for your students. So here's the real question you have to ask yourself. If one person, without funding, without staff, can hit this level of precision, what exactly are the other companies with full-time content teams doing? They'll say that they're the best. They'll post on TikTok, post on Instagram, do targeted Facebook ads, have a really flashy website, guarantee results. But when the real work gets done, they're silent. Because they never do the real work. I'm not naming names, I don't need to. But when a one-man system quietly outperforms an entire machine built on marketing, maybe we need to stop and ask what that machine is really outputting. Anyway, if you're watching this video and you're thinking, oh, I'll just join his JMSS classes next year because he's going to be able to give me the exact answers, stop. You're not who I'm teaching for. Don't be one of my students. Look, I don't teach to predict the exam. I teach so that the exam doesn't matter. So that when you walk in, you have structure, you have clarity, and you're able to execute under pressure. That's my standard. That's my system. So whether it's the prac I gave my students or something completely different, my students will always walk in calm and walk out proud. Because they weren't trained to hope that a question shows up. They were trained to own whatever shows up. If you're watching this thinking, oh, maybe I'll join next year in case he guesses it again. Don't. I don't want to build people who rely on answers. I want to build people who genuinely dominate their subjects. I want people who want to grow regardless of how much work they need to put in. Anyway, if that sounds like something you want to genuinely enjoy the subjects that you do, and you want to have passion and understanding in it without having to do a million different practice exams and a million different questions to score well, then my Term 3 Maths Acceleration classes are opening up, where we go from Year 9, Year 10 foundations. We build you from there for a couple of weeks, and then we start tackling methods 1 and 2 content, where by the start of next year, you'll be ready to do 3 and 4 methods with me. It sounds like it's a really fast and intense pacing, but it's actually really well structured and laid out, and we modify the pacing in order to make sure that everyone is keeping up. And if you're going ahead, then I give you very tailored SACs and mock exams and things like that to work on and practice and push you. Waitlists are in the description. I don't really like having to sell every single time, but if you genuinely want to learn with me and you want to see what my classes are like, the first session is completely free. Basically, you buy a ticket, you fill out a form, and then I give you a refund, and then you can join on the day. They start term 3. I have a couple spots open, so you can check it out when you have time. Link in the description. But other than that, you know the drill by now. It's good to be back. Don't like, don't comment, don't sub. Log off and do something else now. See ya.